Good morning. This is an introduction to the Pennsylvania School Climate Leadership Initiative. I'm Dr. Stacy Moeller-Main. I work at the Office of Safe Schools, where I coordinate this initiative, which is a partnership with the National School Climate Center and PAIUs. This session will address what is the School Climate Leadership Initiative. We refer to it as SCLI. What is school climate and why does it matter for schools? What is the 5-stage school improvement model? Grant opportunities that are available and next steps if you are interested in being a part of the School Climate Leadership Initiative. This initiative is not a program, and that's an important distinction. It's actually a learning and strategic planning process that's focused on linking school climate improvement to other improvement goals. The main goal of this initiative is to increase the capacity of educators in individual school buildings to lead school climate improvement efforts. When we met with a group on the webinar earlier today, they had been assigned a pre-reading, and we brainstormed and talked about what school climate is. For the purposes of this orientation, I'm just going to share with you the next slide, which is the definition of school climate that the National School Climate Center uses and that we in the Office of Safe School use. And that is, school climate is the quality and character of school life. It's based on the patterns of not just students, but also parents and school personnel's experiences with the school. And it reflects the norms, the goals, the values, the quality of the interpersonal relationships, teaching and learning practices, and organizational structures that are being implemented or that are at play in the school building. The 3 articles that I shared that will be posted with this webinar are an article on school climate and the research base, a brief on school climate and school leadership, and a brief on the National School Climate Standards. Suffice to say, one of the important learnings that comes out of reading these briefs is that school climate is not an effort that can be led by a principal or a small committee alone. It needs to be an intentional process of building shared leadership among all stakeholders in the school community. As part of the process, you begin to talk about how can our school climate better support students? How can we help them feel safer and better equipped in the learning environments? How can we help them develop the knowledge and skills and values that they need to achieve, not just academically, but social and emotionally, so that they can engage civically as citizens and have workplace success? But we're not just concerned about students, we're also concerned about teachers. How can we help our teachers feel that they can be successful, have efficacy, and actually fulfill the expectations that we have for them? How can we help our teachers feel successful in their efforts of engaging students in the classroom? How can we help teachers feel a sense of purpose in the building and that they can contribute to improving the school in ways that matter to them? It's also about the school as a whole. Does every adult who's connected to this school or every student have a sense of belonging here, that this school is for me? We're not just talking about making the school feel like it's a welcome home for successful students. We're talking about also making it a home for students that may struggle academically. We're not talking about creating a school that benefits just the majority race students, but we want to focus on making this a school where students of every race, sexual orientation, gender, and language background feel a sense of belonging. And then finally, how can parents and community members feel connected to our school and engage with us more effectively? Why does school climate matter? Well, we like in the Office of Safe Schools to refer to school climate as the plate on which all of our key activities of schooling can be built. That's because school climate in the short term can support improved academic outcomes among students. It can lead to improved motivation to learn, improved staff morale, and it can support teacher learning. But the research also says that school climate matters for students' long-term success. That is, students that have been nurtured within within a positive school climate are protected against some of the negative forces that they might experience. It's a protective factor. In other words, students who feel connected to school and a sense of belonging later in life are less likely to be engaged in risky behavior, drugs and alcohol, and they're more likely to find a positive purpose in their community. School climate also mediates against teacher burnout, according to research, and can support school districts and schools' goals around teacher retention. The school climate improvement process that the School Climate Leadership Initiative relies on is the process developed by the National School Climate Center, which is really a 5-stage strategic planning model that begins with readiness assessment and learning about school climate, moves on to evaluation, where we look at multiple pieces of data, including the Pennsylvania School Climate Survey, and trying to expand our understanding of school climate. Stage 3 focuses on engaging the broader community in understanding that school climate data and helping the committee understand what it means and developing an action plan. And then stage 4 and 5 are focused on implementing the action plan and then reevaluating, reframing the action plan and sustaining it over time. The Pennsylvania School Climate Survey is one requirement of the School Climate Leadership Initiative, and it's a free survey offered to Pennsylvania schools that assesses students' perceptions, teachers' perceptions, parents' perceptions, and community perceptions of 4 school climate-related factors. The first is student support, the extent to which students feel supported, known, and understood by teachers and other adults in the building. The extent to which students, staff, parents, and communities feel safe in the school. The extent to which social emotional learning is valued and demonstrated by students and other members of the school community. And the extent to which the school is attending to its core mission of being academically rigorous. When we recorded or held the live session, we asked principals who were online to talk about how school climate linked to other improvement efforts. And some of the things they defined were links to comprehensive planning, links to teacher effectiveness, links to the broader goals the community has around parent and community engagement, links to teacher development or staff development. And I'm going to take a moment here to talk about a few of the linkages to comprehensive planning and teacher effectiveness. Comprehensive planning and school climate improvement share some common principles. The Pennsylvania comprehensive planning process is supposed to engage key members of the staff and representatives of many stakeholder groups in the planning process, just like school climate improvement. It recognizes that decisions and goals need to be based upon multiple sources of data. Schools that are involved in the School Climate Leadership Initiative have opportunities to connect that school climate data to other planning processes. And then both are continuous journeys of improvement, where you, in an ongoing basis, re-administer surveys, recollect data, and monitor and adjust the programs and processes over time. School climate regional coordinators in the PAIUs that we've been collaborating with have underscored the importance of thinking about how school climate can be built into your professional education and induction plans, how school climate data can be built into your student service plan, and how data about rigorous education and supportive education from the school climate surveys can be built into your gifted education and special education plans. You'll see the numbers next to each of those Chapter 4 planning requirements under comprehensive planning tells you how often you need to update your plan. Professional education plans need to be updated every 3 years, whereas student Services plans and induction plans need to be updated every 6 years. So that's what those numbers apply to. School climate also is relevant to teacher effectiveness in the Danielson framework in particular. That is, under pedagogy, for example, how knowledgeable are your teachers of their students? One data source that you can look to understand this is the SEL and student support domains of the School Climate Survey. If you look through the other Danielson domains, school climate is relevant to Domain 2, the environment, Domain 3, quality of instruction, and Domain 4, professional responsibilities. The school district decides to become involved, or a school decides to become involved in the School Climate Leadership Initiative, you know that we are asking you to engage in this 5-stage school improvement planning process. But what specifically will you be asked to do? Well, if you sign on, you will begin in the fall of 2017, and the first stage will be to identify or establish an existing team to lead the school climate improvement efforts. That team will need to hold monthly meetings. But in addition to those monthly meetings, your IU coordinator will probably ask your team to attend a couple of day-long training sessions, most likely one at the beginning of the school year, and then a half day or full day mid-year, and then a half day near the end of the year. You'll be asked to identify team roles, including someone who would lead the School Climate Leadership Initiative. This is not the school principal. It should be another person who would serve as the liaison to your IU coach or school climate regional coordinator. And you need to complete a readiness assessment among the team by the end of September. That readiness assessment is an online tool that would be taken by only members of your school climate leadership team. Stage 2, which was evaluation, is administration of the Pennsylvania School Climate Surveys. We recommend that schools do those between October 1st and November 30th. However, you do have some flexibility in planning your administration time window. You would just need to work with PDE. Stage 3 would be implemented in 2018, the winter-spring season of 2018. And that would involve engaging the school community in identifying school climate-related priorities based upon the data, and then developing an action plan for improving school climate by the end of May. During the 2018-19 school year, you would begin to implement that action plan while continuing to administer the school climate survey and meeting as a team to reflect on your administration and refine your strategies. By the end of the year, you would enter stage 5, where you evaluate and reflect on the process, and with a focus on how do you sustain your school climate improvements, as well as how do you sustain school climate data and school climate as a framework as part of other school improvement planning processes. What is the role of the principal? We are assuming that this webinar is being watched by many people in school communities, including principals, but we want to highlight the role of the principal. First, the principal is the person who convenes the school climate improvement team and serves on it. They're the ones who establish expectations that real tasks will be completed, real work will be done. They share leadership with other team members. A key component of this initiative, and it will only be successful, is if you're able to successfully engage a team in shared leadership of school climate improvement, and that team can engage the larger community. So the concept of shared leadership is critical to this process, and it's important that the principal communicate and recognize that from the beginning. That you will value and expect the engagement of the entire school community, and that the principal will provide resources necessary for the work. So what type of resources do we anticipate will be needed for this effort during the first and second year? Well, during the first year, our school climate regional coordinators in the IU have said that they need some dedicated time for training, a couple days during the course of the year, as well as a monthly meeting time. Your team will need access to students, staff, and parents, as well as access to major communication pathways, newsletters, your phone dial-in systems, and other ways of communicating with your constituents. This is part of a tool that they can use, or a set of tools that they can use to engage the entire community in this effort. We need you to be committed as a principal to a no-fault framework and a team to a no-fault framework. We certainly do not want folks to look at their school climate-related data and begin pointing fingers at members of the school community who are responsible, they think, for the data. It is critical that these teams spend time developing a supportive, trusting team that is not looking for blame, but is looking for opportunities to improve. The IU School Climate Regional Coordinators has a number of tools and protocols that they will take your team through to help you develop that no-fault framework and that culture of trust. And then finally, we want you to be creative. School climate is a dynamic entity. And there are many ways that you can be creative about supporting students, about building social emotional learning skills, and about building a positive school climate. And we certainly want you to draw on those resources. In the second year, you'll need all of the above, but you may need additional resources to implement the strategies that you identify in your action plan. Which is why we want you to be aware that there are Safe Schools initiative grants that can be used to support school climate work. The first are the program grants. These are grants of up to $20,000 that can be applied for by an LEA to support programming. The program grants do not support substitutes or staff time. So we have also identified an additional category of programming. These are $5,000 grants for supporting school climate planning efforts. The school climate program grants can be used for substitutes and staff time to enable your team or subcommittees to meet and work on school climate improvement activities. We talked about one of the first steps that you will take as a leader in beginning the School Climate Leadership Initiative is to convene a representative team. And what we've learned is that those teams need to include some key people. You need to include people with curriculum expertise who will know what the key initiatives in curriculum are and how they might be able to tap or link school climate strategies with curriculum. If you're doing PBIS, you should have at least one representative from PBIS on that committee. And you may even decide to use your PBIS team as your school climate improvement team because there is some overlap. What that team would need to recognize is that the school climate data that we are asking you to respond to goes beyond office disciplinary referrals and begins to ask you to consider students' perceptions of the school as critical data, as well as teachers' perceptions, staff perceptions, and others. So we'll be looking beyond issues of student safety, issues of student order and discipline in the building, to considering how supported people feel. How well are students demonstrating those complicated social and emotional learning skills, interpersonal awareness, decision-making, self-monitoring, the ability to work through conflicts. And we'll be asking you to engage parent and community members as part of that process. So in many ways, PBIS and school climate improvement are very complementary efforts, but School Climate Leadership Initiative suggests that we need to look beyond student behavior and we need to engage a broader set of stakeholders. You'll want to include participants also on your SAP team or your student support personnel like counselors, and anyone in your building who's working specifically on parent and community engagement. Should include a combination of formal leaders, teachers, a support staff member, a parent, community partners, and students. You should set a regular meeting time that allows all team members to participate at least monthly, and you should expect that your team will establish subcommittees to engage more people in the work. The types of subcommittees that might exist may be around planning the survey, conducting audits of the program or data that you have available, as well as a subcommittee around community engagement. Some of the possible roles are the role of the coordinator. Obviously, we've talked about that, the school leader. You may task one person to lead a subcommittee to coordinate the survey, engagement coordinator, audit or data coordinator, and a recorder, which may often be a meaningful role that a support staff person might play. But anyone could really play that role. The recorder is critical because it maintains accountability. What did we accomplish in this meeting? What did we say we were going to do? And then what follow-up occurred. So if you're interested in pursuing school climate as a element of your school improvement planning and would like to join the School Climate Leadership Initiative, your next steps are pretty straightforward. You should meet with your PAIUs School Climate Regional Coordinator to negotiate an MOU. We recommend that that MOU be negotiated over the summer, and that you should recognize that the IU has some flexibility in adapting that MOU to meet your needs. If you decide that you're going to apply for a school climate program grant through the Office of Safe Schools, you will need to attach your MOU. You'll want to establish at least the initial membership of your school climate improvement team, as well as your training and meeting dates. This summer would be great if you could identify each of those things before the beginning of the school year. You'd be ready to get off to a good start. And of course, write the grant if you're interested. As soon as your staff come back at the beginning of the year, be prepared to introduce school climate, its importance, as well as the 5-stage improvement planning process. Your School Climate Regional Coordinator can support you in designing that introduction. And then you'll want to complete a readiness assessment among your team by the end of September. If you have further questions, I encourage you to reach out to your IU School Climate Regional Coordinator or the Office of Safe Schools. Our big goal here is that we're building leadership capacity. When you take your readiness assessment in the fall, you will find that you are all over the place on the 6 domains. Do you really have a shared vision? Do you have a culture of trust? Do you have a habit of building off of past successes? How successful are you at engaging the whole community in your school improvement efforts? Do you have professional learning communities in place? These are things that, concrete things that you can begin to do incrementally over time to strengthen your school climate, and that can also help to improve academic learning and help you meet some of your larger goals. So we hope you'll join the School Climate Leadership Initiative, that you'll work with your IU School Climate Regional Coordinator to begin this process. You will set the pace, you will design the MOU, and you will be the ones committing to the process. So I invite you and welcome you to this important work.